Hi there and welcome to Colour Fit Chat number 15. I hope you're all fit and well in what are obviously quite worrying times. Hopefully you're also managing to spend some precious times with your families and there's a bit more opportunity for some CPD like tonight's chat. Tonight I'm delighted to have Kate Shilland on the show to talk about nutrition for youth athletes. Kate is a registered sports nutritionist with a Masters in Sports Nutrition. Her current roles include working as a performance nutritionist for Crystal Palace Academy, Bromley FC, the Bird Dance College and Pure Form Clinic. Kate's passion and work centre around supporting young athletes, helping them to identify the role that nutrition plays in their health and performance, and establishing good habits from an early age. She's recently set up a project with the Boxing Academy, which is to be rolled out across schools, combining boxing training and nutrition to help support young people's physical and mental well-being. Kate previously worked as a counsellor for young offenders, and her passion for helping people is just crystal clear. She also consults with adult athletes, including European and World Boxing champions, and as a cherry on the cake, Kate is a former sprint athlete and current Winter Fan Dance champion and part of the Marbella Ironman winning relay team. Please get involved by posting questions and comments on the Twitter chat tonight on @colour_fit at 7 p.m. Really hope you enjoy the show.
So, in practical terms, it can be really difficult eating 3,500 calories a day when you've got a busy school schedule and training schedule. How do you fit it all in without feeling too full to get on the pitch to train or on the court to train? So we need to look at factoring in, how we can meet this energy demand in practical terms. That's where dietary fat also, which is often limited in their diets, is important because 9 calories per gram, it's actually helps you reach that number in smaller food amounts. One of the biggest things I see is that a lot of young people don't have breakfast. They will leave the house without breakfast, and they're missing out on a huge eating opportunity. It's really hard to then make that up throughout the day. So it's so important that we can educate them on actually the significance of breakfast. Again, not just for training, but if they're going off to school first, it's so important to fuel the brain. At a young age, the brain takes up to 40, mid 40% of their total energy expenditure compared to about 20% of an adult brain. So again, it's really vital that we're considering the fuel requirements, not just for physical performance, but for mental performance as well, for focus, for accuracy, for concentration, and mood. You've got to enjoy what you're doing. You've got to enjoy your sport. And if you're not fueled right, your energy levels are low, you can't concentrate, your mood suffers. We all know that feeling. I've got young kids myself and they're horrible when they're hungry. Not horrible, but not so nice. So it's all these things we need to think about. So breakfast is really key. And one thing with the protein intake, I often find that breakfast is carbs. Breakfast is breakfast cereal and toast if they're having it, and that's pretty much it. So we need to look at distributing carbs, protein, fats throughout the day, each meal and each snack opportunity, having that structure, that's contribution of all of the macronutrients, carbs, protein and fats at breakfast, lunch and dinner and snack times. So things like Greek yogurt with your granola rather than milk, with some berries, with some fruit on top, banana on top, adding some nuts and seeds. That's a really great breakfast and sets you up well for the day. Milk, switching to whole milk is a good idea because that gives you extra calories. It's a good source of protein as well. Bowl of cereal before bed is great because again you've got the milk in there as well. Milk before bedtime is brilliant for because of the casein protein, overnight recovery, but also breakfast cereal, as I mentioned in one of the other questions, is a fabulous source of essential vitamins and minerals. They're fortified, so it's important that where there may be gaps, that we look at the easy practical ways of filling those gaps. Things like wraps are really easy to take and have in between school and training. Like a chicken wrap or hummus or salmon, whatever, tuna, really easy portable snack options. There are loads of things easy to make. Energy ball recipes. The Colour Fit app obviously is fabulous for ideas for these. I think the key is trying to get your young athlete interested and involved in making stuff. Learn how to scramble eggs. Often they say, I don't have any time in the morning, but scrambled eggs take like 2 minutes. So it's like, do you want to, if you're looking for an excuse, maybe you don't want it enough. It's like, well, don't waste your talent by eating badly. It's stupid. If you've got that ability, let's feed it and make you be the best, or help you be the best you can be. But I think we need to all be putting out the same message and giving them the advice and education and tools to actually know how to make it themselves, which obviously is not a plug for your app, Tom, but it is a brilliant resource. So if anyone hasn't got it, I would recommend it for clubs, for their athletes. So yeah, I think that's it. So what are the macronutrient requirements of young athletes? Again, the research in this area is really limited. There is a real positive data. I think that there was some research published back in the 70s, but since then, not really much. There are ethical considerations and practical limitations on studying young athletes and looking at muscles for substrate utilization. So we draw data or draw our advice from the best data we've got available. Now, to fuel training and exercise, the body uses carbohydrate and fat, and to a much lesser degree protein for fuel. We also need to consider, when we think about exercise and young people, actually their energy needs are far greater than just their needs for exercise. There's so much physical activity that goes on in unstructured play, like unstructured activity, playtime, running around, just general extra burning of energy. So we need to factor that all in when we're looking at their fuel requirements. Again, the requirements for each activity depends on the nature and duration and intensity, but largely it's the carbohydrate is a primary source of fuel. But young athletes have a lower ability to utilise endogenous carbohydrate stores. So it's very valuable to actually take on board carbohydrates during the training. Something that sort of sometimes is at loggerheads with normal, general, healthy nutrition advice. It's advisable for young people to take on some form of sports drink or squash or something like that during training or during a game, especially up to about an hour, exercise over an hour, to top up those carb fuel stores. This is something that you need to work with the parents and the young people about to choose the best source. Again, in terms of what they can use, it's roughly about 1 gram of carbs per minute per training, similar to an adult athlete. Carbohydrates should really be making up about 50% of your young athlete's diet in a day. In terms of protein, you're looking at around about 1.4, 1.6, up to 2 grams per kilogram body weight per day. This amount is very easy to get from your food, particularly for the younger, smaller athletes. So there isn't any need to supplement with protein products. Something that I find across the board, and I'm doing some research currently, is that fat intake is quite low in a lot of young athletes. I think there's been sort of mixed messages or miscommunication of messages about fat actually being bad for your body and fat making you fat and not being conducive to performance. So a lot of athletes seem to have quite a low fat intake. This is where it's really key to educate them on the significance of this and the importance of fat in the diet. There's lots of vitamins A, D, E and K that are fat soluble, so the body can't absorb them without sufficient dietary fats. And also it's linked to the production of sex hormones, so it's really important for growth and development, something that's really essential. Particularly the good fats, the omega-3s and 6s, oily fish, something that quite a lot of young people are not too keen on. So we need to make sure that we're educating on this is something that's important to be included in the diet. and possibly looking at supplement if it really is something that they are really hell-bent on not eating. So my next question is about supplements. Is it okay to give your young athlete supplements? This is something I get asked quite a lot, and there's some mixed opinion, I think. Some clubs have a specific policy to absolutely under 18s, there's no place for supplementation. I agree that that is really important and it's good to stick to that. There is an exception, vitamin D, as I mentioned earlier in the micronutrients question. We need it. It's a basic requirement in the UK, particularly in the winter months, that we do need to supplement with vitamin D because we simply can't get enough from our diets and there's insufficient sunlight. So we need to support that through supplementary methods. Again, I would make sure it's an informed sport regulated product first and foremost, and I would always advise you speaking to a registered dietitian or nutritionist beforehand. But that is my exception. The rule, I would say, is no, there is no need to supplement with anything else. But young people at the moment, growing up in this really crazy environment where I went to an interesting talk calling them Generation X. It's like they're bombarded by messages on social media promoting supplement after supplement promising gains with a Z, and it becomes appealing and they become vulnerable to it, especially if they think other people are doing it and they don't want to miss out. So the key is always, like as with all of this nutrition, is always about education. Make sure that you're approachable and they can feel comfortable speaking to you about, okay, I'm thinking about this, and it's about educating them on what the risks are, what the rules are, and also how you can get everything from your diet. We always, as sports nutritionists, operate a food first approach. There's some really good kind of supplement pyramid or flow charts that you can look at to see actually where and when it's advisable to look at a supplement. But for young people, the risks outweigh the benefits, unless there's a specific health concern, and again you'd always have to go through a GP first for that. But for performance, supplements are not necessary. I think most of the questions I get asked by the players that I work with are about protein. Should I have a protein shake? Should I get this protein Snickers, or should I get this? I don't know. It's crazy, all the protein products that you can get now. Actually, it's perfectly easy to get sufficient protein from your diet. So yeah, supplements are not necessary. Another thing is the energy drinks, caffeine. I see a lot of people are drinking an energy drink before a game or before training, thinking it will give them a specific boost. Caffeine, I would never recommend that for anyone under 18 for many reasons. Particularly, it's can be dehydrating. Also, everyone has a different tolerance level to caffeine, so I wouldn't advise your young athlete to even go down that route. Just steer clear of anything like that. And in fact, the energy drinks now come with they're banned. The sales are banned for anyone under, I'm sure it's 16 or 18. But again, they've got no place, in my mind, in the performance nutrition kind of diet, if you like. But anything else, supplement-wise, as long as you know that your athlete can feel comfortable talking to you or asking questions, and then your role is to educate them on actually how to get this from your food and the reality and the risk of what that supplement might be. Because yeah, you can't go to the local shop without seeing a protein chocolate bar these days, and you have to think about, okay, when does it become just a food and when does it become a supplement, and where's the line? So my advice would always be avoid it, and then ask the question first to someone that's got the qualifications to answer you correctly. One of the questions I've been asked is about micronutrient requirements. So we've all everyone talks about the macros and energy requirement, but what about the micros? Are there any specific vitamins and minerals that young people or young athletes have an increased need for? So iron and calcium are very important for all young people, but particularly young athletes. Regarding iron intake, so as your body grows and your blood volume increases and muscle mass increases, as do your iron requirements, and particularly for young females at the start of menstruation, then their iron needs go up as well. In fact, the needs for boys and girls differ. It's 11 milligrams per day for males above the age of 14 and up to 15 for females. In fact, in the UK, the latest NDNS data showed that actually females, about 54% of females had low iron intakes. So that's something that's really important to try and focus on in the diet, getting enough dietary iron sources. Because obviously symptoms of NOT are fatigue, increase risk of illness and injury. So be mindful of your iron sources and making sure that you have a source of vitamin C alongside to aid the absorption. Likewise, if you have vegetarian or vegan athletes, again, it's even more important to really focus on quality iron sources in the diet. So that it's something that I would stress is very important. Likewise, calcium. Calcium needs in young people looking at 1,000 milligrams a day, which is the equivalent of, well, a pint of milk is around about 700, to put it in perspective. Other countries have slightly elevated calcium requirements, around about 1,300, but ours is 1,000 for young people. Obviously we need it up to before the age of 18. 90% of our bone mass is established. So if you have a low calcium availability in the diet, you're at increased risk of reduced bone health, which is obviously essential for not just for now, but for your longer term health. With calcium, your body can only absorb it if you have sufficient vitamin D, which brings me nicely to vitamin D. That is one thing that is essential to supplement, and I'm coming on to supplements next. That was the next question. But it's very difficult to get sufficient vitamin D in our diets in the UK, or anyway, majority of it comes from the sunlight, and we don't get enough of that in the UK. So it's important to supplement vitamin D so that the body can absorb the calcium from the diet. I would speak to a registered nutritionist or dietitian before getting a vitamin D supplement for your young athlete, and always make sure that it is Informed Sport approved, obviously. But they're the key ones, calcium, iron and vitamin D. Iron sources, going back to vegetarian iron sources, breakfast cereals are a really fantastic and easy and convenient way just to make sure that your micronutrient needs are being met. I think cereals sometimes get a bad rep. Everyone says, oh, they're full of sugar. In terms of nutrient needs, micronutrient needs, and sort of taste preference wise for young people, they're a really great thing to just encourage your young athlete to eat. I will come on to sort of practical suggestions later on, but that was just while I was thinking about it. So yeah, calcium, iron, vitamin D, and also just be really mindful of making sure they get at least their 5 a day. In fact, they have increased requirement for antioxidant vitamins because they're active and they're causing more oxidative stress on the muscles as they're training and burning oxygen. And I see it so horribly frequently that young athletes are not getting their 5 a day. So that's something that we really need to make sure that we focus on as well. There's so much more, as always, further research is needed. But the good thing is that this is a really new, exciting area of research and work. So young athletes now are in a much better position than athletes 10, 15, 20 years ago, because our knowledge is developing. So hopefully that can be great for the long-term success of them as athletes, but also obviously health first, as said before. But yeah, it's an exciting time. You think actually sometimes with athletes, if they can perform at this level eating fairly badly, it's like, wow, what are the possibilities? How good can you be if you actually start paying more attention to what you're eating. And it's our role to educate them on that and help them to understand that link between what they're putting in their mouths and what they're getting out on the pitch or on the track or on the field, whatever it may be. But I think it's so often overlooked. I think what we need to do is all, as practitioners in our individual sort of areas of expertise, all work together. So if the same messages are coming from the coaches and the strength and conditioning staff, and we work together with them and the families as well, we can make sure that we're getting the right messages across to the right people. And I think that's something that's really key, is involving the parents, because most of the time it's these athletes, they're not the ones that are buying the food or doing the shopping or cooking the food. So we need to make sure that we are looking at the broader team and working with parents, advising them on what their requirements are, and actually the sheer volume of food that their sons and daughters may need. I think if I say, they're always hungry, they're eating me out of house and home, actually they need to, they do need a lot of food. So it's kind of linking it all together, which is really important. And yeah, with the athlete in the middle, we can hopefully get some much better understanding of the role that nutrition plays in everything, in terms of performance and injury prevention or speeding up the rehab process, but primarily obviously their health and growth and development. So thank you. I hope that was interesting, and if you've got any questions, please let me know and I will hopefully be able to answer them. Thank you.
So massive thanks to Kate there for sharing her expertise and experience on youth athletes. There were lots of topics, but the main thing that shone through to me was that the most effective nutrition advice may not be the optimum diet on paper. Compromising some of your nutritional ideals so your audience will even consider adopting them is absolutely key with anyone, but especially with young people. So things like cereals, sandwiches, pasta bakes and the likes may have to feature more than you'd like. But try and shape them to be a bit more healthy and balanced, so with some protein, fruit and hidden veg. Education has got to be very simple, got to be very practical and inspiring. So fun workshops and using role models is going to be key. So please listen to the full episode on the ColourFit podcast and our YouTube channel and leave us a review. Stay safe, take care of each other, and I hope to see you next week.